but I was a little bit loath to be on the other end of that. And as a result, I kept saying, look, it's the place you want me to go is far away. It's an hour from my home. I don't, it's too much. I said, oh, it's going to move across the street from one of your offices, because I had been helping my wife develop an international furnishings business, a design and furnishings business. And so we had a number of offices and showrooms, and this was quite close to one and not too far from my home. And I said, oh, okay, well, yeah, if somebody says to me, I can't say this or you have to say that, I will walk out. I'm not going to be a mouthpiece. I'm just, find somebody else. I was really trying hard to get away from this. And he said, no one will say to you ever what you can or cannot say.
各位朋友你好，我是史东。在今天节目中呢，我们为您访问的是一位在政界、在学界、在法界、在商界，在美国以及在中国呢，都是相当杰出的一位人士。他最近在媒体界以及在智库界呢，都有非常杰出的表现。那么我们在不同的电视节目上呢，特别是在 CCTV 啊，在北京 TV 啊，在 Al Jazeera 还有 Press TV 啊，全世界各地的这个电视的谈论节目之中呢，都有他评论的身影。我们非常高兴，非常荣幸，今天请他在节目中和我们谈很多事情，包括他自己的背景，还有他对世界上很多事情的一些看法。他的名字叫做 Einar Tangen。Welcome, Einar. Thank you for coming to my show. It's an honor.
Well, it's the other way around, Jay. I really appreciate you having an interest. Let's see if I can fulfill it.
Well, the first thing I'm asking, really not only for myself, but on behalf of all your audience in the world, is a little bit about your background. Can you take this opportunity to introduce your background a little bit to us?
Yeah, I'll do it in terms of the kind of influences. Strangely enough, my grandmother was my greatest influence. She was French Huguenot descendant, came up through France, Scotland, briefly in Ireland, and then Canada and the United States. Her father was an engineer, quite successful. He was in charge of building submarines during World War II. And she went to college, very gifted. She ran the American Red Cross. She received the Clara Barton Award, which is the highest award the Red Cross gives. And then she went on to pioneer, and this might sound strange, but the clothes dryer. In America, everyone just hung their washing out on Mondays, and they had washerwomen and things like this. And she worked with Hamilton Industries. She was a home service director. She judged Miss America pageants. She traveled the world. She was an extraordinary woman, wrote articles. And she was very intellectual, always reading, always very interested in current events. But she taught me that behind all current events are personalities and connections. Her husband died, unfortunately, while he was still quite young. He was a tremendous athlete. He was among the first to get a master's from the University of Wisconsin in physical education. He believed in sports as a science. This had a lot of effect on my father, who attended Harvard, Oxford, did studies at Heidelberg, had a law degree from a combination of Ivy League and Midwestern schools, and through whom I had an experience with the world. We lived in Oxford for about 7 years. We lived in Cambridge for about the same amount of time. Before I was 19, I attended university at Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin. My grandfather, whom I was named, his name was Einar Tangen, was a sports coach there, very successful. In fact, too successful. The president of the university, who was Henry Riston Henry Riston's father. Henry ran Citibank for a number of years. I actually pulled my grandfather side and said, "Hey, listen, we're a liberal arts school. Why don't you let everybody play?" Meaning tamp down all this kind of number of victories. So my grandfather had, kind of an indirect. Obviously, I never knew him, but he was a very intellectual person. He was what they called then a sewer socialist. He believed in the necessity of government to kind of be a counterweight against the power of large corporations. Things along those lines. He was a friend with Frank Lloyd Wright, many other intellectuals who were interested in those types of ideas of how you improve the life of individuals in a society where capitalism was rampant and necessary, but not necessarily always ending in the right result in terms of economic disparities and public issues not being addressed. In terms of my own life, I went to 13 different schools, including Marquette Law School. I saw a lot of different places, cultures, mostly Europe and the United States. And it gave me a sense that, that we have both differences and commonalities, and that it's important to work on the commonalities.
How would you describe your personal beliefs and your belief systems? And where did you get those beliefs from?
Well, my grandmother was religious. My father was not. I was baptized, both Catholic and Protestant, and I'm a great believer in spirituality. But I don't believe in any sense that there's that there's some other being that's necessitating what I do or don't do. I believe it's my responsibility to be a good person, and that's it. That's between the time that you are born and the time that you die, and since no one has gotten out alive, we are finite creatures in a world, a universe that seems infinite, and the only thing that we can do is through define ourselves through our actions. So that's something that my grandmother taught to me, that you give back to society, especially if you've been as fortunate as I have been.
How much of your belief system impacted your commentary?
A tremendous amount. I mean, that is the essence of everything the way I approach life. It is not necessarily about being right. As I said, we're finite. And in infinite universes, the chances of being absolutely right are very, very small. What I like to do is look at the assumptions that people are making when they're putting forward their arguments, whether it's a government or an individual, and to question those, not because I know that they're wrong. I just believe that progress is only achievable when you start looking at the assumptions that you're making, especially when the assumptions that you're making are not leading to the outcomes that you desire. I mean, you could take democracy at this point in the world. It is very, very difficult for me to square this idea that democracy is working. And the reason I put to it is that there are two causes. One, when you try to impose democracy instead of letting it grow naturally, it hasn't worked. Bullets and bombs have not created perfect societies. But the other thing that really, strikes me about things like this, and this is where my outlook comes through, is that you cannot have any society, legitimate and sustainable, unless the people involved actually believe in something greater than themselves. When selfishness and my own issues take precedent over the issues of the collective, over the other people around me, then society is unsustainable, and it cannot have legitimacy because it's only based on narrow self-interest. And I think that's where we are a number of countries throughout the world are. Democracy is not a bad system. The issue is not the system, but the people in it.
I guess, including myself, a lot of people know you from your video presence. your commentary over different video or TV channels all over the world. And based on the information I have, just very briefly, from anywhere from CCTV to Beijing TV to Al Jazeera to Press TV, from CNN to India TV network, and from CGTN to NPR, from BBC to Australian broadcast. I'm just mentioning a few, very few. So,
to cut it short, there's 30 of them. I don't appear every week on them. I do about 14 shows a week on television and radio. And it's not something, it was just something that kind of happened.
What is your personal goal?
No, I mean, the way I treat it, the issues are very serious. I cannot take myself that seriously. I mean, I appear very serious on the screen, but the fact is it's always about the issues that we're talking about. In terms of my goal is very simple. I was fortunate that I had people around me who were willing to give me advice and guidance when I was younger. And they had one thing that they always said to me. And they said, listen, you cannot repay me, but you can do the same for others when you are able. I'm 61 years old. I'm at a point now where the things that I can do are very limited in comparison to the help I can give others who are going to be doing more in the future. And I say the same thing to them. I have about 20 different mentees. And I say, what you can do for me is not important, but what you can do for the world and then future generations is.
It so happened that I'm very glad that you said that, because I'm not saying I'm taking the same approach. I can say I'm taking the similar approach, not as grand as yours, towards human relations. And whenever they ask me, how can I pay you back? I say, you don't have to pay me back. You just pay it forward. That's a better way to do it, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree. I mean, we're talking the same language. It's about how you pay it forward. How do you find people who have the abilities and energy, and try to make sure that they are a positive reflection on society. I think it's a shame. I mean, one of the greatest issues out there is that you have people, such great potential, who are not mentored and put on a path. You don't brainwash people. My mentees are variously, staunch Republicans to staunch Democrats, liberals. That is not the issue. The issue is always making sure that they are connected to society, that they're not ostracized by it, because those people who have the ability, who become ostracized by society, will go in a direction. And if they're not connected, they will just simply, be pirates. They will go outside. They will be bandits. They will say the system isn't for me, therefore I'm against it. And people like this can do a tremendous amount of damage. So it's important to, at least attempt to bring them into the fold, to show them the wisdom of working together as opposed to working against.
Would you consider yourself a conservative or liberal, or can be done that way?
I don't think it can be done that way. I'm a great believer in free enterprise at a certain level. But at the state level, I do not believe that free enterprise works. If you look at American industry, and these are people that I know personally. I mean, these families, they're nice people. But the fact is, they in every major industrial component, you have 2, 3, 4 large companies, some owned by families, some corporate entities which are controlling the markets. At the point that they become a monopoly or an oligopoly, they're not competing for your business. All right, the rules of free market are out the window. What they're doing is they're taxing you for the privilege of using whatever service or product that they have. And that's antithetical to what I would consider a free market system. I also believe very strongly that there is a duty of everybody in society to take care of others, but not a free ride. I think that sometimes good intentions have led to very, very poor results. The Great Society that was supposed to solve America's issues under Lyndon Johnson, unfortunately broke up African American families, which up to that point, the best thing they had going for them was an extremely strong matrilineal family structure.